So in recent videos, I've been talking about how bullish the ecosystem is of crypto in terms of the news and obviously the Bitcoin cycle. But what's happened with altcoins? Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into some data, some information, some perspectives from my experience in terms of why this could be an issue short term, but long term maybe be absolutely fine. It very much is a Bitcoin cycle at the minute. Also Solana, meme coins, some real world assets too. Yeah, there's only 8 assets that are over their previous all-time high. That indicates one thing, early, but also indicates a potential thing we need to look at. Why? So let me know in the comments what narrative you're backing. This question will become very apparent in a second. So the first thing we need to look at is obviously perspective of narratives at the moment, right? Currently, you can see on the screen here, 311% is meme coins. Then you've got real world assets, liquid staking derivatives, layer 2s, and identity, AI, Bitcoin. You get the idea. The problem we have, let's be honest here, there's a lot of narratives and there's a lot of things that haven't done well. Ordinals is an obvious one, NFTs, certain derivatives, options, even liquid staking derivatives, layer 1s, DEXs, wallets. Now, this is the thing. I'm going to say it now. A lot of those that are doing relatively rubbish now are very much bullish cycle narratives. Liquid staking derivatives, layer 1s, when people come to the market, they want to make passive income, boom. Options, derivatives, NFTs. Ordinals is an interesting one. That could be a slow burner because it's relatively new with the Bitcoin technology. You've even got the likes of wallets, GameFi, oracles, right? Very much underperforming, but a lot of those require people. So let's not read too much into this data, but meme coins, that going high could be good. That could create wealth for people to redistribute wealth if they take profit, I know, into other things. So that could be an option. Now, this was a great post here by Miles. Full credit because I'm going to be using a lot of your tweets. It's kind of obvious when we talk about this. Most retail do not hold much Bitcoin. They don't. And again, if you want to comment if you hold Bitcoin or not, let me know. I know through Learning Crypto, my company, that a lot of people do not buy Bitcoin. And as much as I teach about Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is, and there's going to be whole new things around my company, around Bitcoin soon, it makes you wonder why. And when we talk about the data and the information, and I know I've been talking about the ETF narrative and how things are evolving overall in the cryptocurrency space with Bitcoin. It is very much a Bitcoin narrative. It just baffles me how people don't have even 10% or 20% of their portfolio into Bitcoin. Too many people, right, in my opinion, obviously, think that, Bitcoin's not going to make you much money. In my opinion, Bitcoin is more of a wealth keeper than a money-making device in terms of its store of value. That's my overall opinion anyways. The reason being, and I'll talk about this in the technical analysis second, so don't piss off basically. You're going to see very, very clearly why this is a problem. You need to understand that Satoshi values versus USD values are very much different things. I often look at my portfolio in USD prices for when I want cash. I will mostly look at it in BTC values if I'm looking to preserve my wealth. This is why 40% of my portfolio is still in Bitcoin and it's just chilling in Bitcoin. As you can imagine, I've been in the Bitcoin space for a while. But new people don't want that. So when we're now seeing Bitcoin run, we're seeing a bit of capitulation with a lot of altcoin holders by going, it's never going to pump, it's just going to melt. Opportunity is here. That's the difference, right? As much as we're talking doom and gloom about, oh my God, altcoins haven't pumped yet. When you put this video together and you digest all the bits and points, you will look at this and go, we're probably early. Let's not get too stressed, but this is the reasons why altcoins have not moved as much yet. Also, if you've not yet done so, feel free to check out my Patreon link below. I am going to be doing more free posts on here, so keep your eyes on it. Another situation, and again, full credit to Miles, is the information around social media. Let's just look at this. Now, as you can see, previous cycles, the tops and the bottoms of certain situations. I know there's a lot of people on here. And yeah, I'm not the biggest YouTuber in the world, but you can get a lot of data from your own YouTube channel. I want to go through my channel in a second, but the reality is here. A couple of months ago, we had a bit of an uptick, an upsurge, certainly with the Bitcoin halving narrative. Altcoins had a bit of a run, and this is documented here. A lot of new views were coming to the market, again, here and here. We haven't had the big blow off, so to speak, right? But the data is interesting. The problem we have is a lot of things do get very, very interesting. Interesting point number one, people will return when the candles are green. Point number two, this is proven by this. Look at this. Now, when we look at this data, yeah, 800,000. There was a bit of an uptick recently because of the altcoins. That's the most important part here. So we did have an uptick. But currently, as of today, roughly $70,000 levels, we are only at 80,000 views at the moment per day. Where have they gone? So as I alluded to, this is the last year of my YouTube channel. You can see how it was kind of chugging along, and all of a sudden, boom. Why? The chart will tell you a story. What happened in the charts? We had a tiny little alt season where things just blew up. Things went a bit crazy, things went a bit mad, and everyone was making money and everything was great. It is obviously cooled down. This was a halving run. We went to $70,000, $74,000, whatever numbers we were at, and we kind of pulled off a little bit since then. But that's the reality of it. Interest becomes apparent when there's big, juicy green candles. Now, another situation that we have to put into consideration, this is the worst bit about it. This is why I talk about altcoins being a bit of an issue. Most altcoins are unlocking a lot of tokens per day. You can see that very, very clearly. So the next cliffs on some of these big boy assets, you've obviously got linear unlocks per day. Look at how much Solana's emission in. It's a huge amount. And this is for pretty much everything. If you're in private sales, pre-sales, public sales, there's a way and a means to doing this, and ultimately that's kind of the problem. This is the thing. As they're getting diluted, the market cap will rise, but sometimes the price might fall. This is where you need to look at the Bitcoin pair to see how it's performing versus Bitcoin in terms of emissions. Hugely different, right? So when we look at all those assets, it's good to buy assets that do not have emissions, or they have emissions in the future, but not yet, if that makes sense. There's always an opportunity. Problem is, we look at altcoins as a vehicle to make lots of money, and that's true, but often it doesn't go as well as we planned because we're getting FOMO'd into it. And over time, they dilute against you and people sell. And that's the bottom line of it, really. Now, even though I'm talking about the whole doom and gloom about obviously Bitcoin and, altcoins not performing and there's still this situation where the inflows of $2 billion make a 5-week streak accumulation of $4.3 billion. That's going into digital assets. I know most of that is in Bitcoin, but exchange traded products, ETFs, etc., we're getting a new one. We're getting plenty of new ones. We're getting Ethereum. So that could change the game a little bit. The problem is we're not seeing that trickle. But psychologically, at the end of this video, I'm going to showcase something that's hugely important, why this will change massively. I've said this before on a number of my tweets. I don't think everything will run. I think the strong assets will run, the strong ones. We've got 2.2 million assets. A lot of them are shitcoins. Meme coins will eventually get, they'll tail off. Certain narratives will come into play and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the one thing that is, huge here, we might get less people, but we might get more money. Why? More and more people with wealth are starting to trust cryptocurrency a little bit more now versus what 2-3 years ago, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, obviously. So that could make a huge, huge difference. And again, we talk about earliness and the Bitcoin halving event. And this is obviously a very obvious article that came out not long after the halving. We are literally, as of today, just over 2 months from halving. Right, 20th of April, 2024. We are currently on the 11th of June. Every time you look at the data, and we'll look at the data, halving is a bit of a whimper. We have a bit of a hype run, we have a bit of a sell-off, and things get a bit shit, and then all of a sudden it changes. Not too long after it, 100 days after, usually, 100 days after, and I've said this many, many times, we are lower than the price of halving, and then once we get a year later, we tend to be 3 times higher. That might not be the same for Bitcoin this cycle due to the numbers, but that's the past. But realistically, we might be looking at much, much higher Bitcoin if that cycle methodology remains. So we still could be early, and everything currently right now is an overreaction. So the technical analysis, others/BTC is currently at 0.19. levels, which is relatively low when you look at the bigger picture. For obvious reasons, we are very much low in terms of the BTC pair, which would probably indicate opportunity. We've mentioned this many times with like the total 3. This is at lows. We could be forming a new bottom down here. Who knows? We are currently at literally roughly 2020 levels. Interesting, I know. So when we think about where this kind of rallied up, we are currently not having a rally yet. When we talk about the start of this year, when we had a bit of a rally going up, a lot of it was in USD prices. And I can look at this, you can see this on the total 3. Things started to really move at the start of the year. You can see this here, huge. And we have pulled back, but we haven't pulled back much, which is interesting, right? So what we need to look at is prior cycles, certainly when it comes to the likes of Bitcoin. Now, obviously, yes, we can look at certain situations. And obviously, when we look at the fact of what happened with Bitcoin here, this was the first all-time high retest. Back in 2016 when the halving happened, yeah, cool. We flew for 4 years pretty much, kind of ish. But when we look at the previous market here, when it was halving, in roughly the May 2020, very, very interesting point to note is the fact that it took a bit of time to get going. As I mentioned before, it took a while. What if in September time, October time, we start motoring? Now, for obvious reasons, yes, we have had a huge Bitcoin narrative run, but it's just showcasing the strength of Bitcoin. We could be correcting down into these levels, back into 60K. Halving hype's over. 100 days later, we are lower than the halving numbers, which is roughly, where were we? Roughly around here. So give or take where we are right now. We might be lower than that. That's fine. But it's all about the future, isn't it? It's where will we be in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, 4 years' time, who knows, right? And I think that's why people are panicking. It's like, it feels like everyone in crypto, and I don't know why, whether it is certain accounts, think that you're going to get rich very, very, very quickly. It's not about that. It's about making money over time and keeping your wealth. It's about surviving the longest, right? If you buy something low and you sell it high and rebuy back low, sweet. Look at the Bitcoin cycles. You could make a lot of money by doing that in a very, very simple way on any altcoin, pretty much. It's all about keeping the wealth. You're better off doing it in Bitcoin versus an altcoin for obvious reasons, which I will explain in a second. Well, actually, I'll explain now. Because when you look at Bitcoin dominance, for example, and it's high, you're going to be losing value for most of the part in the BTC pair. So we're all flapping about altcoins doing, pretty crap versus BTC. Well, obviously, why? The BTC dominance is high. But when you put into context everything I've just said, emissions, problem. YouTubers, well, we've not really got much YouTube content in terms of new views. The interest isn't here. The narratives are not there yet, right? It's all the Bitcoin narrative. But there's one thing here that's absolutely critical and mission critical to the success of cryptocurrency is people. And the people are still here, right? We're still not shaking it off yet. We're still addicted to this sort of market, which is daft in itself. But everything right now, in my opinion anyways, is kind of how it should be. Dominance is high, halving's happened, we're still having a bit of a shakeout, and people are pretty much scared. This is a really, really good opportunity to look at what you've got. So the thing that I really want to go a little bit deep on is greed of the market, right? As often as it says, and I say it a lot, green candles will bring people to the market, and they will. Interesting point though, right? When you look at the market, there will be a rotation. When Bitcoin gets to a certain level, the interest will be there. When Ethereum gets to a certain level, the interest will be there. We've seen it this year. When things did something, people got excited. When Bitcoin broke from 40K up to 74K, people got excited. People came back to the market and things started to move. We've seen that at the start of the year. There will be a rotation, but not everything will do it. Bitcoin, people will rotate into something like Ethereum, Solana, and other things and bits and bobs. They will probably rotate into other lower cap assets within those ecosystems to make more money. This is the thing. We are very early. We are literally not even 2 months after halving yet. That's a scary point. But yes, altcoins are underperforming. Some of them will not pump. I openly admit that. That's obvious. But a lot of people are getting a little bit scared right now and thinking, well, if I sell my altcoins into whatever, I might make more money. Sometimes it's better to just stick with what you've got. Sometimes, yes, you can rotate, and you've got to kind of hope that the coin that you picked does better than the one that hasn't. But please remember, there's a massive human emotion side to this, the greed. Said it before, a lot of people think they're going to get rich quick in crypto. Some people do. It's called luck, funny enough. But ultimately, if you're deciding what bags you want, you need to be in the market for a longer period of time than you think, and you need to hold on at all costs. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. If you think that I'm on the right path with what I'm saying, let me know as well. I think we are early and things are not put into context or into consideration as to why things are underperforming and where the interest is and why they're not here. But soon might be very, very, very different.